Olivia, and this is a very improvised video because I just got back from being at Starbucks with a friend, and I was just like, I just kind of want to make a video, and so I just thought about the whole concept of loving other people, and kind of wanted to talk about that because that's been kind of a big thing lately in my life and in my school, and just it's always a very big thing, you know, in a church, the topic of loving other people, but it's come up a lot just because Christians take things into their own hands a lot of times and end up really hurting people because they, you know, there's this song by Casting Crowns that is like, oh, Jesus friend, it's called Jesus Friend of Sinners, and it says, you know, basically talking about how we take God's name, and in his name we hurt people, and we take this sword that we were never meant to take and cut people down. And there's a difference between proclaiming the truth and what is sin and what is not, than tearing someone down and turning them further away from the truth. So someone talked about that at our Christian fellowship club at school. Someone talked about loving other people and how these people in the hall were like, you know, the most accepting people are the people with tattoos and dreadlocks and the ones who are like that. And the Christians are the people who go to church every Sunday are the most judgmental people. And that just made the boy who spoke really sad. So he talked about it and how we are the people in this world who should be loving the most, not the people who should be hating the most or excluding ourselves the most and feeling like we can't even talk to people who are quote unquote sinners who Jesus sat with and ate with and loved on. So what I wanted to read is this passage in John chapter 13 entitled Jesus Washes His Disciples' Feet. And Jesus was using this as an example of what we should be like. And it just says that, it says, so he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? And Jesus replied, you do not realize now what I'm doing, but later you will understand. No, said Peter, you shall never wash my feet. And Jesus answered, unless I wash you, you have no part with me. Later on, he says, do you understand what I've done for you? You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that's what I am. Now that I, your teacher and Lord, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. So his example to us is that we shall not be pampered and like kings and queens if we want to follow Jesus. We're not going to be served. We're going to be the ones serving and loving. And as we grow deeper in our relationship with Jesus, we're going to learn more how important it is to love other people with his strength because of his great love for us. And it's definitely a really big process because a lot of Christians, you know, immature, younger Christians may not really understand that concept of how much you can hurt someone with your words. But as you grow in your relationship with him, you become more wise about the things that you say in terms of not shrinking back with timidity. There's a difference between that and shrinking back, but what I'm talking about is when someone realizes how much their words matter to people and they start praying and saying, okay, God, help me to love, give me the wisdom and the discernment to know what to say to these people, because it's hard. It's hard to witness to someone and tell them about Jesus when they have such an inclination to shut you down, and that's really scary. But really, you know, if you pray that God is going to lead people to you and give you the words to say, he's going to do that. And a lot of times it's with our actions and our love. And if someone sees you, you know, being judgmental or talking about someone or gossiping about them or betraying their confidence, that really does taint their view of you. And it's okay, we all sin, and it's okay, but I mean, we all sin and we all fall short. But as we learn and grow, I think we are called to move on from that and to stop acting like that and to move on from our growth and maturity and to stop sinning in that way. So loving other people is so important, not just, you know, our friends and our family, but loving the people who are the least lovable in our world and our culture. Whether it's the person who is the most popular and has 100 friends and they seem great, whether it's them or whether it's the person who sits alone at lunch every day and they don't have anybody and no one is nice to them and they're weird. That is really, really important for both circumstances, to just love all people. And I know that we all fall short of that. That's very hard. But let me think. I had a chapter somewhere. Here in Romans chapter 13, it says all the commandments basically are summed up in one rule. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to its neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. And there are many verses talking about love, like 1 Corinthians 13, that famous verse of what love is. Love is patient, love is kind, it doesn't envy, it's not evil. So that is what the definition of what we should be like, that definition of love. That is real and true love. And when we become engulfed in this idea that Jesus died for us and did so much for us, we want to spread that to other people. And so let's stop wounding people, and let's have discernment and pray and ask God to help us to give people his words. And people may still be offended, but you can know that you have delivered it in a way that is loving to people. And that's a really hard thing to do. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and so I would love for you to join in this kind of movement of stopping this hurt and pain and judgment and moving on to this radical thing called loving your neighbor.